Hi friends, welcome to a slow and gentle flow for tight hips and anyone looking to increase flexibility and range of motion in the hips. You're going to want props for today. If you have yoga blocks, you can also use empty cardboard boxes in place as blocks. You can use blankets or pillows in place of a yoga bolster. Just have those things around as we go so that you can have access to them. We're going to begin in an easy seat. So this is often just a cross-legged position. If you feel tension in the hips as you cross the legs, take something under the bum, like a pillow or blanket rolled up, and then take those blocks or pillows on the outside underneath the knees as well, so that we can sit up nice and tall and sort of tilt the pelvis forward. Take a little fold if you can. You can rest the head on the floor if it reaches, or take the forehead to a pillow or block to feel a little bit more supported here. As we stay folded here for a few moments, feel free to adjust where you're needed. Anything that feels uncomfortable, try something different. Use blocks or pillows anywhere you feel like you need more support so that you can fully relax and start to ease that tension in the hips. Keep your breath nice and deep and even as we're folded here. Inflate the lungs along the back and breathe in as deeply as possible, sending all that fresh oxygen to the hip joints. Gently use the hands to push yourself back to a seated position. Remove any props you're using here. And we're going to make our way into a wide-legged child's pose. So coming up onto hands and knees, you're going to sit the bum back on the heels. Take the knees about as wide as your yoga mat. If it's too much tension to rest the bum on the heels, this is where you can stick a pillow or blanket underneath the tailbone so that we lift ourselves up a bit and then walk the hands forward, sinking the belly in between the thighs towards the mat. Again, if you need support there, take a pillow or block under the belly or head and just do whatever you need to feel supported and be able to relax into this. Keep your breathing nice and deep and even, continually trying to sink the torso lower towards the floor, in between the thighs, and relax into those hip joints. Very gently begin to ease out of your child's pose, walking the hands in towards the knees, sitting up tall, and then coming up onto your knees at the back of your mat. Remove any props you have there, and we're going to take a big step to the top of the mat with the right foot. So aiming for the top edge of your mat, step forward, and then bring the weight into the front leg into a low lunge position. You might find that you stay at about a 90-degree angle, and that's totally fine. We want gravity to work in our favor here and sink the pelvis down towards the floor. So if you can push the weight forward, that's great. You can use blocks on both sides of your leg as I'm doing here, or even empty boxes as I mentioned if you don't have yoga blocks. We want to try to keep the torso upright so that gravity is using our weight and pulling our hips down towards the floor. This is to loosen up the front of that leg that we have extended behind us. The hip flexor there is so tense a lot of times, and this low lunge position really helps. Do your best to keep your breath nice and even as this becomes more intense. Don't forget to breathe here. On your next inhale, ease off the stretch to pull your weight back over the left knee, easing out of the lunge for just a moment, keeping our feet right where they are. Take a breath here, and then on your next exhale, sink back into your lunge, seeing if you can take it even just a millimeter deeper, supporting yourself where you need it, and breathing deep here. Slowly push into the hands on the mat or your blocks to lift the hips back out of the lunge and replace right foot back on the back of the mat. This time we're going to lunge forward with the left, taking a big step forward with the left foot and sinking the hips down towards the floor. You may find that one hip is more tight than the other and you'll need to adjust your props accordingly. Just do whatever works best for you and get yourself set up on this side, trying to keep our torso nice and upright so that gravity can work in our favor. Your next inhale, slowly ease out of the stretch, just bringing the weight back onto the back knee for a moment, taking a deep breath here, and then exhaling back into your lunge, sinking just a little bit deeper this time. Very gently push into the hands to bring the weight back over the right knee and place left knee down on the mat, stepping backwards. Remove any props from your mat so that we have room to come forward onto hands and knees. We're going to step right knee in front of left, so our right leg just sort of swings around so that our right knee is in front of our left. Then we sit our hips back in between our feet into a cow face or shoelace pose. This is an intense hip stretch, so we're going to ease into this. As always, use props wherever and whenever you need. A great one to do here is to elevate the hips again, so take a block or pillow or rolled up blanket underneath the tailbone, and you can even take a pillow in between your knees, as they're supposed to sit right on top of each other. That can feel really intense at first. So start by sitting up nice and tall. You can ease the heels away from the bum to kind of modify this and make it less intense. Try to keep yourself nice and upright to begin with. And then as you slowly start to relax into this and feel that space in your hips, you can start to fold forward over the knees. Again, take this as slowly and as gently as you need. As always, keep yourself mindful of your breath here. We never want to hold our breath in any of these positions. The breath is what gives our muscles and our joints the vitality that they need for these poses to work in our favor. If you're folded forward, go ahead and come back to a seated position and then bring the weight forward onto hands and knees once more, sliding that right knee all the way to the top of the mat and extending left leg behind you into a pigeon pose. This is going to be your next kind of intense stretch on the hips. So if you find a space in between your pelvis and the mat, that's where you can take a block or pillow and support yourself there. We want both our hip bones to be pointed forward to the top edge of our mat. That means our left knee and the top of our left foot are resting on the mat as well. Go ahead and make sure you're in a proper position, pointed forward, and then slowly start to fold forward. You can take the head to the mat or a pillow or block, anything you need at this point, and relax into pigeon, nice and slow. Slowly come out of the fold, come back to an upright position using the hands for support. And then lift the hips up off your mat or your props and replace that right knee back with the left. We're going to come into shoelace or cow face on the other side. So this time left knee comes in front of the right and we sit our hips back in between the heels so that left knee is on the top. Go ahead and situate yourself with any props that you might want to use on this side to elevate the hips or separate the knees. And then try to sit up nice and tall. Both sit bones either on your pillow or the mat. And then if you feel the openness, go ahead and fold forward. Remember that not being able to fold here does not mean you're doing this wrong. You are still reaping the benefits, just staying exactly where you are and doing what's best for your body. Slowly lift the torso and then bring the weight forward onto the hands, sliding that left knee towards the top of the mat and extending right leg behind you into pigeon on this side. Go ahead and set yourself up the same way you did on the other side, or maybe take a gauge of where you're feeling the most tension. It might feel different than it did on the other leg. You might need less support or more, but go ahead and point both hips towards the front of the mat and then start to fold forward. Continue to breathe nice and deep here, sending all that fresh air to our stiff joints and keeping ourselves aligned properly. Gently ease out of this stretch, bringing yourself back to an upright position and bringing both legs in front of you. We're going to set up ourselves in a bound angle or Baddha Konasana butterfly pose. You might want to use the same props you did at the beginning when we were in easy seat, something to support yourself under your hips, to tilt the pelvis forward slightly, and then something to support your knees on each side as we bring the soles of the feet together. When you've got your props where you want them, sit up as tall as possible, letting the knees relax as much as we can to the sides, and then start to creep our torso forward, reaching forward with the belly button first before letting our spine round out and taking the head to our feet, the mat, or a block or pillow, whatever you need to feel supported here, and be able to open in this really intense hip opener. Take a deep breath in and out, making sure we're relaxing into the hips and not holding tension there in this position. When you're ready, go ahead and come back to a seated position. Use the hands on the outside of the knees to close the knees in like you're closing a book and hug the knees into the chest. Thanks so much for flowing with me today. I hope your hips are lots happier. I'll see you next time.